Have a family to protect.
Breaking Point, Wednesday at 9 on ATV.
The party's over for another year, but what now for the winners of the East Coast Music Awards? The story tonight, live at 5.
Now, from the ATV News Center and every city and town in the Maritimes, this is the ATV Evening News, live at 5.
Good evening. It's Monday, February 12th. I'm Yvonne Colbert, standing in for the vacationing Nancy Regan.
And I'm Paul Meunier. Here's a look at some of the stories ATV reporters around the Maritimes are working on for tonight's show.
I'm Alan Johnson in Halifax. Sure, it's fine to win an East Coast Music Award, but what does that do to the profitability of being an East Coast artist? Find out coming up on Live at 5.
I'm Sally Cummings. Coming up, some powerful messages from women who are survivors of violence. I'll have the story later in the show.
I'm Laverne Stewart in Fredericton. Join me later to hear the story of a single father who's raising 2 baby girls.
And kickstart your Monday with a hot edition of the Plays of the Weekend. They're later.
And we're also going to take a look at people preparing for the $2 coin, which arrives here soon. But first, let's check in with Steve Murphy, working in the news at 6. Steve?
All right, thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, everybody. Tonight here in your ATV Evening News, the New Brunswick government is revamping the province's health care system, a 3-year plan aimed at cutting costs by trimming administrative expenses. The cuts mean, among other things, seniors and people on welfare will pay more for prescriptions. The psychiatric hospital in St. John, Centricare, is closing down. Hospital beds that are temporarily closed right now will stay closed for good. And the neurosurgery unit will remain open in St. John. We have more on the announcement and reaction at 6. Also this coming up.
The reform that is proposed today will never be accepted by the people.
Another day, another EI protest. Demonstrators venting their anger in Shediac and Oaktown today. Hundreds of them on the street sending a message about proposed changes to unemployment. We have details at 6 o'clock tonight. Also at 6, the union was there, the company was not. An inquiry into the long and bitter refinery strike is underway, even though one of the major players did not show up. We'll have the results of the hearing here tonight at 6. Right now, let's check in with meteorologist Steve Weigel and the maritime weather scene. Steve?
Well, as you've probably noticed, it's getting colder out there, and it's going to be bitter cold overnight tonight in the Maritimes, down to -25 up through northern New Brunswick. We're looking at unsettled weather conditions the next couple of days, some flurries and light snow in the forecast. Of course, I'll have all the details coming up on the half hour. Steve.
Yes, indeed. The Weigel weather at 5:30. At 6 o'clock, all the day's top stories, including growing anger over fish fees. Demonstrators continue their protests at the DFO office now in Barrington Passage. They're also doing it in spite of a court order that says they have to leave. They're also getting support from protesters in Sydney who have now taken similar action. We have the latest on these protests ahead tonight on your ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock. Right after Live at 5, which continues now. And it's back to Paul and Yvonne.
Thank you, Steve. First at 5 tonight, we're going to catch our breath and review the East Coast Music Awards, the annual celebration of music from our region.
Yeah, and the message, move over, Junos. In fact, there was just so much talent at this year's awards.
The tapes that are being created today in her memory are tapes that relate to people who have been injured, who have been battered, and I can't think of a better memory for a fine person than what's been done here today.
Today, 19 battered women and their children have found refuge at Hestia House in St. John. It's the largest shelter in New Brunswick, and it's full most of the time.
The sentences are not stiff enough. These people are not being taught the lesson that they should be.
Women's centers say despite police department's zero-tolerance policy towards abuse, the justice system is still not sending a strong enough message.
I know that personally I've been into court with many women whose partners walk out the door at the same time they do. And I don't think that that's justice.
Sometimes you play a role. More schools have opened their doors to programs to educate young people about domestic violence. And while public awareness about it has increased, the problem still persists. Now, in the past couple of years here in St. John, many local high schools have invited these women's centers in to talk to them, and they have these 75-minute long presentations that have been made, and they've been going over very well. They're finding out some surprising statistics from the students while they're there, though. 66% of students admitted that they had been in abusive relationships.
That's a remarkable figure, Sally. Is this tape going to be available to members of the general public?
Yes, it will, Yvonne. 200 copies of the tape have already been made and distributed throughout Nova Scotia, across, to various women's centers and transition houses. And the organization hopes to have the tape available, right, as I said, right across the country to libraries and other women's resource centers. If you want to find out more information about it, you can call the Jane Hirschman Memorial Fund in Halifax.
Thanks very much, Sally.
You're welcome.
Now, families on the front line of tough times are vulnerable to a lot of stress, and that's especially true when the family's main breadwinner is laid off. That story tonight from ATV's Randy McDonald in Sydney. Randy?
Yvonne, the coal mining community of New Waterford is continuing to reel from the massive layoff at Devco of 12...
Now, with four-wheel ABS, dual airbags, 5-speed manual and more for just $199 a month. Cavalier, a little cooler. Can we do?
In Quebec. For more information, call toll-free today.
And that's it for us for now. Thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow night, live at 5. Here's Steve Murphy now.
Thank you, Paul. Tonight, tough medicine as New Brunswick revamps healthcare.
We do have duplication of administrations in New Brunswick. People have been telling us that. Even some of the people in the system have been telling us that.
Then growing anger, confrontation looming over fish fees.
This is what I got here. The government wants to charge me $1,890 for.
And water woes. Water everywhere. Nary a drop to drink.
What the cause of it, we still don't know what the cause of, what actually is causing the problem. And that's being investigated both by the project and by the contractor.
Now, from the #1 news team in Atlantic Canada, the ATV Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Steve Murphy. The McKenna government has written a tough new prescription for health care in New Brunswick. It is a 3-year plan that